I know that you are having a hard time right now. That everything seems to crumble around you. I know that you...
Hello you guys, and welcome back to my channel. For this week's video, I'm gonna have a bit of a sit down, cup of tea, have a bit of a chat, because, would you believe it, I have been working as a qualified midwife for a whole year. I really can't believe it's gone that quickly. It's really weird because part of me feels like I have been working as a midwife forever and it's been ages since I qualified, and then the other part of me feels like it has been 5 minutes. It's so crazy, but it's been such a good year. Working as a newly qualified midwife is something that I get quite a lot of questions about, so I just wanted to hop on, have a little bit of a chat, and talk about some of the things that I get asked about a lot. This first year has been amazing. I've really enjoyed it. It's not always been easy, and I think that's what I expected. I've worked in a few different areas. I worked initially, when I first qualified, I started work on the ward, which was a mixed antenatal and postnatal ward, so helping women breastfeed and recover from birth and cesarean sections and things like that, and then also looking after high-risk antenatal women who'd been admitted for whatever reason. So I did that for about 6 months, and then I did a short rotation on the midwife-led birth centre, which was meant to be about 2-3 months, and then COVID hit, and so it was much shorter. I think it was about 7 weeks in the end. But I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed it. It's the hospital that I work at's got a beautiful midwife-led birth centre with birth pools and, you know, mood lighting. It's lovely. So I really enjoyed that, and I'd really like to go back there and work there for a bit longer because I got a lot out of that. And then COVID hit, and so I moved to the high-risk delivery suite, and that is a whole new environment. I really enjoyed it. There's a lot to learn and a lot of guidelines, a lot of policies, a lot of things that you've got to kind of just have as second nature. And obviously the women that are coming through that high-risk delivery suite are, well, they're high risk. And that means that you've got to be aware of what their risk factors are and when to escalate, which I suppose you've got to do regardless of where you're working. You've got to be able to escalate when something isn't normal, but working somewhere where people have multiple risk factors and managing those risk factors to get these women their best possible birth is something that's hugely rewarding, but it can also be really challenging at times. So I was on there for about 5.5 months, and then recently, 5 weeks ago now, I rotated out to community, which I'm really enjoying. So I'm still kind of finding my feet in community, but I feel like I've had a really wide spectrum of experience in the hospital, and I feel like I've learned a lot. I don't think that a global pandemic in your first year is necessarily the greatest way to initiate yourself into being a midwife, but I've definitely learned a lot, and I've had to kind of roll with the punches a bit, which I think has been quite a valuable learning experience. Placement wise, I always get asked which is my favourite area. Of the places I've been, I don't think it's fair to judge community yet because I've only been out 5 weeks, but I am really enjoying it. But I think I would have to say the midwife-led birth centre has been my favourite so far. I love that it's low risk, but it's intrapartum care. I love being able to empower women in that way, and I think that's something that you can do really well in that environment. So I really enjoyed that, and I'm really hoping I'll get to go back there at some point in the future. Something about working in the hospital that I'm not sure I will ever get used to is working nights. I don't love nights. I've always loved sleep. I've always been a great sleeper since I was a tiny baby, and the idea of not really getting sleep or sleeping for a few hours during the day, it really gets to my body, and I feel really drained very quickly when I'm working nights. So it's not something I love. I realise it's part of the job, but it's not something that I get a huge amount of joy out of. I do get a lot of messages from people saying, you know, do nights ever get easier? Do you ever get used to working nights? and I'm not sure I have an answer yet. I think they probably get easier when you develop a bit of a routine, which I've started to do, and working out how they work for you. But actually, I'm still not a fan. Still not a fan. Some people love them. Some people want to just work nights. For me, I just don't love them. I think they tire me out, but they also seem to mess with my work-life balance. I don't get to see as much of Matt because if I'm working on a night, he'll come home from work after I've gone, and I'll come back and he'll have gone to work again. And so it might be if I've got a few nights in a row, I won't see him for maybe 4 days, which is quite a long time. Something that I get asked quite a lot is whether I changed trusts when I qualified, and I did. So I trained at one hospital, and then when I qualified, we knew we were going to be moving, so I applied for jobs in the area that we were moving to. Yeah, so I trained at one hospital and now work at a completely different hospital in a completely different area of the country. And that has brought its own challenges with it, but I think actually it's the best possible time to do it if you're thinking about it, purely because you're already going to be nervous. You're already going to have a huge amount of pressure on you and feel like you don't know anything and feel lost and all of that. You're already going to have those feelings when you're newly qualified, regardless of whether you're staying at the same hospital. So I think if you're thinking of changing trusts, actually changing trusts at that point, I didn't find it too difficult. I think it was a very similar experience that I would have had if I'd stayed where I trained. Obviously there are challenges that come with it, and it's weird things. It's not the complex things like the care, it's more things like I just didn't know where things were. Those were the things that made it a little bit more difficult, but actually, you know, you can learn where things are, and even if you stayed at the same trust, people move stuff around and you rotate to a new area and you go, oh, hang on a minute, the last time I was here they kept the gloves in this cupboard and now they've gone. Yeah, so it hasn't been as bad as I thought it would be, to be honest. And I've really enjoyed getting to know a new team and a new way of the hospital running. That's been really interesting to see the different dynamics and the different ways that things run. When I started thinking about putting this video together, I had to think about what I would tell my past self if I could go back and talk to me a year ago when I just started my job. And the thing that came out of it was actually that I would say it's okay to have a bit of a wobble, and you will never ever know everything. I've had several moments since I qualified where I felt like I shouldn't be in the room, like I'm not qualified enough to do this, that and the other. And I think it's quite normal. And whenever I've had days where I've felt like I'm just not there and like I'm not good enough, I've spoken to other midwives about it, and they say, yeah, you know, I've been qualified 10 years and I still have that feeling. So I think that's what I would tell my past self, is that actually it's okay to doubt yourself, but that you are good enough and that you are the right person for the job, but it's okay to ask for help at the same time. And that's something that I think past me would have really appreciated. I think the other thing that I would tell her is to make sure that she winds down properly. We all strive for a better work-life balance. I think everyone out there is trying to achieve that, but I am particularly rubbish at coming home from a long shift and then thinking about it for hours. I'll wake up in the middle of the night thinking about a woman I've been looking after, and actually it's not very good for your brain. So now I will check my emails when I'm at work, and then I leave work and I try and turn off my work brain, which I found really, really useful. And it means that actually we get better quality home time when I'm at home, which has been really nice in the new house as well, being able to kind of come home, shut my brain off and enjoy the new house and getting the new house sorted. So yeah, so I think those are the two major things that I would want to tell my past self, is kind of really place the importance on that work-life balance, and it's okay to have a wobble because everyone has them. It's normal. And actually when you qualify, it is such a big change from being a student. I mean, there are things that aren't much of a change at all, because actually when you're third year you're pretty much doing the job anyway, you're just being overseen. But there are much more kind of boring admin things. I think even when I was in third year, there are things that your mentors are doing. It's not something that they need to teach you. It's not a skill. They let you do the skills, and some of the documentation and things, but actually the boring admin side of it, referrals and things like that, and making decisions and knowing what grade of doctor needs to review this woman and things like that. That's the kind of thing that I've found has been such a huge change from being a student. And so, you know, if you're having a wobble, actually it's because there's things that are brand new, and there's a lot more responsibility, and as a midwife you have autonomy, and that's something that is emphasized to you as a student, but actually that feels like such a heavy responsibility when you qualify. So yeah, it's a huge change from being a student, and so sometimes you need to ask for a second opinion or get a bit of support, because actually they don't expect you to walk straight out of midwifery school and go straight into the job and never have a question to ask again. That would be ridiculous. Overall, I have really enjoyed this year. Obviously there have been days that have been difficult, and there have been days that have been amazing. There have been shifts that I've loved, and there have been shifts where I've got halfway through and I've looked at the clock and thought, oh my god, I've got another 6 hours to go. This day is going so slowly and I'm so tired. And actually that's reality. That's the reality of working shifts, is that sometimes the shifts are going to feel really long, and sometimes they're going to fly by, and it's just the nature of the job. But overall, I've really enjoyed it. I think I've learned more since I qualified than I learned as a student, just because you're doing it every single day. You're chucked in at the deep end, and there's a lot to take in. And so I think in the last year I've probably learned more than I learned in my 3 years as a student. But it's been great to have that independence and be doing the job. I feel really proud to be doing the job that I'm doing, and even if I don't love every single shift as a whole, there are moments in every single shift that I do love, and not many people can say that about their job. I get to bring babies into the world, and I get to look after these remarkable women who have these amazing stories. I still can't quite believe it's been a whole year since I first walked in, got my uniform for the first time and started working. That's insane. I love it. I really love it. I feel very lucky to do what I do, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where this career takes me and what kind of challenges and opportunities it's going to bring me. And obviously I will share what I can on the way. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this little chat style video, and if you have enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and I will see you for the next one.